Welcome, Spanish Fork and Salem 5th grade students, to Freedom Walk of America 2021. My name is Steve Wilson, and I'm very proud to be here. I'm a member of the Spanish Fork American Legion Post 68. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I proudly served my country for 25 years, 2 of those years during the Vietnam War as an artilleryman. And I'm very proud of my service, and I'm very proud to be here with you students today and take you on a virtual adventure with the American Legion as we try to teach you a little bit about the value of America and about the value of patriotism and about the value of our American flag. Today we will have different veterans come up from different branches of the service, and they will present to you a little bit about their experience in the service. We hope that you will gain a stronger sense of patriotism, of love of country, a love and respect of our American flag. You will hear these different soldiers talk about what the flag means to them, what freedom means to them. And at the end of our presentation today, you will see a video clip of what we call military rights. And that is that when a soldier passes away, we as veterans proudly pay tribute to them with what we call military rights. And we fold our American flag, we present it to the family, we do a 21-gun salute, which is a solemn and very sacred tribute to that soldier who has fought and that is now laid to rest. And we play taps with our bugle. Taps is a living soldier's final tribute and last farewell to a comrade who has been laid to rest. And I hope that you will appreciate the fact that we as veterans love and respect those who have fought before us and those who are still fighting and working hard and sacrificing to defend our country today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Boy, I tell you what, that's the quietest group of kids I think I've ever seen. Now, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that we talk about freedom. Okay, now listen to me, every one of you. Have I got everybody listening? All right. I want you to think in your mind what freedom means to you. Okay? Now just stop. I'm not going to have you raise your hand or anything. I want you to think about it. You have freedom to go where you want, eat what you want, have the religion that you want, to wear the kind of clothes you want. You have freedom. And I want you to think about that, because as we go through this, the whole point of this is to show you what has happened to preserve and take care of your freedoms. All right, so we're going to start off with a little geography lesson to start. How many of you know where Vietnam is? All right, tell me.
Well, it's in Asia and it's like around China and...
All right, okay. Asia, that's good. And what's that big country right up there? China. Look at that. That's Vietnam, that yellow right there. That's all Vietnam. All right, so I'm going to tell you about a war that I fought in, and that's the war in Vietnam. Now, you know, anytime there's wars, there's lots of controversy. A lot of people will say we should be there. A lot of people say we shouldn't. And that's not what I'm going to discuss today. What I want to tell you is that soldiers, like me, we go and do what our country asks us to do. Sometimes our leaders have information that we don't have. And so a lot of times they do things in war that we don't know maybe that should be done, or we don't agree with it maybe, but as soldiers, we do it. Now me and Sergeant Major Carden over here, he's a retired, same rank as I am. He and I have known each other for many years in the military, and we go where they tell us to go. He went to Iraq, I went to Vietnam. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vietnam. See right there, that line? All right, this was all South Vietnam. From that line up there was North Vietnam. North Vietnam was controlled by communists. Communists don't have freedom, or very little freedom, okay? Down here, these people said, no, we want to be like United States. We want to have a democracy. And so the country split right there and said, well, we're going to be communists, you guys be the other. But then they wouldn't leave it alone. They started invading each other and killing each other and stuff like that. Now down here, all of this is called the Delta. That's where they raise lots and lots of rice. And back when the Vietnam War came on, Vietnam was one of the largest producers of rice in the world. Up here, Hanoi was mainly where they had factories. So they built ships and stuff like that up there. But right in this area here, this was all called the Central Highlands. There's lots of mountains. They're mountains just like these we have right here. I was a ranger in Vietnam. Initially they called us LRPs, Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol, LRPs. But I went out on a 5-man team, and they would stick us out in this jungle. But all that area right up in there is mountains and very, very heavy jungle. The jungle would be so thick, there'd be triple canopy, they'd call it. A lot of times the sun would be out. It'd be kind of light, but you couldn't see the sun. So it's kind of dark, kind of moving through the jungle in the dark. So it wasn't fun sometimes. All right, now that's a little bit about Vietnam. Any questions about that? I do something a little different here because I think I like to have you experience some of the stuff that maybe a soldier would experience. And one of the things we do with that is I have you put on some of my equipment. Huh? I let you hold this rifle up here. And by the way, it's safe, but I'm going to let you hold it. And I got a pistol up here, and these are all captured weapons that the Chinese had provided for the North Vietnamese. First off, this was the helmet. They call it a steel pot. You know why? Because it's steel. Okay, and you put that on your head. And it's heavy. And you're going to stand, all of you stand right up here, and we're going to let you put this stuff on. Oh, look like a general, doesn't he? All right, stand right over there. Kind of heavy? Okay. This was the steel pot that I had when I first went in the military. Now, this was kind of a funny thing, because look at this. Can you pop it out of there? They had what they called a helmet liner.
That's not too bad.
That wasn't too bad, huh? So the soldiers, so they'd get a headache all the time, they'd wear that, and then when they went to combat, they'd put this on. Huh? Okay? All right, that's what I started out in Vietnam with, because it was still left over from World War II. But then they got smart, and they changed. They said, you know, probably this doesn't do the thing that it's supposed to do good enough, and it's too heavy. So they made another helmet. Now this is made out of, it's called Kevlar. It's a special material.
Pull this over your face.
Yeah, pull that down over your chin.
There.
All right, now stand right over next to him. Okay, not too bad, huh? And it's not steel, huh? Not so bad, huh? You could run up this hill with that. All right, now I'm going to have somebody come up, and I'm going to have him put on some battle things. These are what we wore when we went in the jungle. How many of you know what the size of a mosquito is? Show me. Show me on your hand. What size of mosquito?
Well, it depends what kind of that.
Right here. These kind. Here. They're about that big? Okay. In Vietnam, the mosquitoes are probably that big. All right? So when they bite you, they take out about a pint of blood. No, not that much. But you don't want them to bite you. That's the point. All right? So when we would go out in the jungle and we'd sleep at nights, and we also used this sometimes just to camouflage ourselves, we would put that on so the mosquitoes couldn't get to us. Huh? And then it would help camouflage you. Now, when we went to the field as rangers, we didn't wear that helmet. We wore this.
Too noisy.
Because it's too noisy and you can't hear in them real good. These you can hear in. You see, you can't even hardly see them already, right? All right. Now the other thing is, we used to put camouflage paint, like women wear makeup?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'd do that. We'd put that all over our face and everything. So I've had enemy soldiers walk close enough to me to almost step on me and didn't see me. This is called a load-bearing equipment, LBE. So when we would always wear this, and this would carry our grenades. We carried a little first aid pouch right here in case we got wounded. We carried a compass right here. We usually carried at least one glove, and I'll tell you why sometimes it was just one. We would go out of a helicopter and we would do a rope. We'd slide down a big long rope, 100-foot rope, instead of the helicopter landing, because sometimes the jungle would be too thick. We'd zip out that thing and it'd get going really fast and it'd burn your hand if you didn't have a glove. So we'd always have one glove to hold on to. Okay? All right, and then we had to wear a rucksack. That's a pack. All right? This is an actual, you can turn around and show them. This is an actual enemy rucksack. This still has the guy's name on it up here. If you can come up after and look at it. But it's right, it's gotten so dim over the years. I can't even see it right there, right across there. And that was an actual enemy soldier's rucksack. But this would be full of water. It would be full of, you know what an MRE is?
No.
It's called a meal ready to eat. It's everything contained all in one thing. It's little pouches. Well, they had something similar to that. But theirs was usually fish, dried fish, and rice. Sound good?
Yeah.
And then they'd put a fish oil over it called nukmao. Okay, nukmao is a fish oil. They'd put that fish oil over their fish and rice, and that's what they would eat. But that's what they would carry in here. And then they would carry around the bottom, where I've got this. This is what we used to sleep on to keep the moisture off of us at night. And sometimes we could kind of pull that over us because it get a little cold. They used to carry this. That was their bed. How would you like to sleep on that? Huh? Because you know what it is? It's just strings of rice. I mean, not rice kernels, the rice stems. And they would roll that out on the ground, and that's what they'd sleep on. You certainly couldn't bounce on the bed, could you? Huh? That'd be a little tough. Okay? But that was how they used to sleep. And then they also carried a little pouch right here on their belt, and it was their money pouch. And I'm going to pass this around, and you can just all kind of take a look at it. This is their money. This was the money. That was about as much as a soldier on the North Vietnam Army would make in a week if he was like a private. Now, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. It's almost like 8 cents. Okay? It meant it was a little bit more than that. It'd buy a little bit more than that. But that gives you an idea. But this is called dong, the money. Instead of dollars, it's called dong, D-O-N-G. Not much money, but they probably had to pay one of those coins for maybe 5 pounds of rice if they wanted to buy it. So it'd feed them. This is what the enemy soldiers wore this, but so did all the people. Now be real careful. This is 60 years old, okay? Now I want you to tell me what you think that's made out of.
The rice at the little guy.
Same as that? No? Okay.
Is it like straw?
It's kind of hard, so I'll tell you. It's banana leaves. The tree on a banana tree, the leaves on it are big. They take it and they smash it up around here. They sew that top and they put a little piece of bamboo up there to hold it. And then they sew these little strips so it's all in place. Now, and then they put a little thing on here and see when the sun comes out, if they're out there, she'd go like that when the sun came out. And then when it would rain, oh my gosh, it's nice and light. Rain would just pour right off of her and not get her wet. And yet it's real light, huh? Doesn't give you a headache. I just have some other hats up here because I want to give you a little bit more of the military experience. Okay, now these are the dumbest hats they ever created, in my opinion, all right? They don't protect you from the sun. They don't protect you from the They don't protect you from anything. And I did not like these. However, these were kind of a unique, here, put your head up a little, a unique hat. The Rangers used to wear a black beret to designate that we were Rangers, all right? And then how many of you have heard of the Green Berets? Special Forces, the Green Berets? Okay, this was another one that I wore. And it's still kind of a dumb hat, all right? But they do it to kind of be elite. Now, how many of you heard of Navy SEALs? Huh? Yeah, I thought you all had. Well, let me just tell you something. The Rangers taught them all they know. Okay. Now, they might not agree with that, but I can tell you, all right? All right, now, there's one other hat that I wore for a while. Come on up here. And this one used to scare people to death, all right? Because you know what it is? It goes on like this. See, it goes around the back of your head, like that. All right. Who does he look like? But this was what the DIs, the drill instructors, used to wear, all right? Now, the drill instructors were the guys that taught soldiers how to be soldiers. Now, anybody who's been in the military, does this hat scare the heck out of you?
Not anymore. But it
Not anymore. But it used to be that you'd walk by somebody and say, DI, because they were always afraid of the DI. And I used to be a drill instructor for a while. And because I'm kind of short, I would take this brim of the hat and I would go up to these tall soldiers and I'd tap them on the nose. I'd say, you're not doing that right. And I've had soldiers almost cry and everything else thinking I was picking on them. But it worked pretty good. All right. Now, then the last one. You have to have a dress uniform. This used to be the green dress uniform. All right, that fits you pretty good. You might want to take that one with you. No. They changed to these blues that I'm wearing now. This is the dress uniform, but they used to have the green one. All right? And it was what you did when you dressed up. Now, I didn't get a chance to dress up too much in the military. I was always in my jungle fatigues and stuff like that. But it was just another hat I wanted to show you. Now, this is what, see, I used to wear one like that over there. The Vietnamese used to wear one like this. This was one that was actually worn by a North Vietnamese soldier at one time. And you can see inside it, there's a piece of plastic sewn in there. Huh? That's what they did to keep the rain so it'd be dry. This is all handmade. It's all hand stitched. This thing right here is all hand braided and everything. But it breaks up. I'm going to mess up your hair. You okay? Won't be good looking when it gets through, right? Okay, all right. But see how this kind of breaks up the contour of his face and everything? So it's harder to see in the jungle. Whereas maybe that one over there might be real easy to see. This doesn't. Okay? That's what they used to wear. If you'll take your hats off and lay them right up there, he'll set them up there for you in places. And all right, I'm just going to show you a few last things. You can go ahead and sit down after you've taken your hat off. And this kind of came from the Vietnam War, but you know, people wear bandanas and stuff nowadays. You see them a lot. Kind of came from that Vietnam War because we would have to put one of these around our head to keep the sweat from running down in our eyes so we could see. It'd be so hot, you'd be sweating all the time, and it'd run down in your eyes and you couldn't see. So we'd start putting these head bandanas on, and now a lot of people do that all over. This is a North Vietnamese soldier's knife, and the steel in this is so bad I can almost bend it with my hand. Not quite, but if you threw this at a tree, it'd stick and probably go like that. Okay? What does that look like? Huh? A tire? Who said a tire? Does that look like a tire?
Yes.
It is. That's a piece of a tire. The North Vietnamese would sneak into our garbage dumps, and when we'd throw our tires away, they'd take a tire and they'd cut it out. You can see the stuff in the side and everything like that. And then they'd take the inner tube and they'd take the straps, cut them into little straps, cut little slots in them like that, and that's the sandals that they used to make for themselves. We called them Ho Chi Minh sandals. Now, these are my boots for Vietnam. And I want to tell you about them because they're kind of unique to me. I've saved them all these years because I said they were my lucky boots. I jumped out of a helicopter once and a punji stick is a sharpened, on the end and the sides, piece of bamboo. Very, very sharp, just like a razor blade. And they would stick those up in the grass, and sometimes when we would jump out of the helicopters, we'd land on those. And some of our soldiers got hurt very, very bad that way. One mission I was on, 5 of us, I was the only one that wasn't hurt. All the other guys got punji sticks in them. I didn't. But I had one cut through the toe of my boot. You can see where it cut. All right? We were in an ambush. An enemy soldier tried to stab the guy in front of me, another American soldier, and I tried to kick the knife out of his hand, and he stabbed me in the foot right there. Okay? Then, right at the very top here, a piece of shrapnel from a grenade went into my leg, and a piece went into my underarm. But those were my lucky boots. See the tread on them? It's pretty well gone. The supply sergeant kept saying, you got to trade those in, you got to trade those in. And I says, no, they're my lucky boots. And so I kept them the whole time I was in Vietnam. Now, another thing as a Rangers, we always carried a little boot knife right here, okay? A little boot knife was in case you had, if you were parachuting, you could get out of your parachute. There were several other reasons we had them, but they were for protection. But it's just a little boot knife, and that would always fit right inside our boot. And if we were ever captured, a lot of times the enemy couldn't see that knife, and it might give us a chance to get away. Okay? All right. Last thing I want to do, I'm going to have, let's see, who hadn't been up? Okay, come on back up here. All right, now watch this as I do this. All right, this rifle's made in China. It was carried by the people there in Vietnam, the soldiers. But look at this. Huh? That'd be awful nasty. Come hold this. Now don't just point it straight up in the air like that, okay? You can hold it with both hands. Turn around, face them. Turn around, face them. Okay, put one hand up here and one down here. There. Okay, there you go. Now, that rifle was made in the, I don't remember, 1940s or something. So it was an old rifle, but a lot of their weapons were very old. And they would carry these in the jungle, and they're too long, because every time you go through, you're having to fight all these vines and trees and everything like that. It's real hard to carry in the jungle. So we used to call them wait a minute vines. You'd hook on your rifle and say, oh, wait a minute, I got to take that off before I can walk on, okay? But they would carry these, and then towards the end of the war, they started carrying AK-47s. And AK-47s are a lot shorter, a lot more firepower. And we had the M16, which was, M16, which was a short one. And we had a folding stock. We could actually put it right against our chest so it wouldn't hang up on everything, okay? But I want you to read what it says right there. What does it say?
These?
Oh, right here.
I have no idea.
Because it's all in Chinese, okay? It's Chinese kanji right there. That's why he can't read it. All right, last thing. Then I want one more. Let's see. Who hadn't been up? Who hadn't? Come on up. This was an officer's pistol. It was captured. And I want you to see what that says right there. What does it say?
Made in China.
Real loud.
Made in China.
Made in China. So do you think the Chinese helped the North Vietnamese? They wanted to fight against us, so they helped the North Vietnamese. All right? And you just hold that straight up in the air. Okay? Now, all right, remember when I started, I said, what does freedom mean to you? I want you to tell me, just real quick, just a few of you, to raise your hand and tell me what freedom means to you. What does it mean to you?
You have rights and you can do what you want.
Okay? All right. What does it mean to you?
That it isn't free and you have to work for it and you have to do stuff.
Okay, when you say not free, see my little sign right here, freedom isn't free? Huh? It isn't free. You can't just say, I'm going to do what I want to do, I'm free, free, free. freedom has rules, doesn't it? And a lot of times when you have rules, it's for your protection, it's for your good. If you wanted to go 90 miles an hour in a subdivision, would that be right? But you would be having your freedom, right? So sometimes we have to work with everybody to make our freedom work. Okay, what does it mean to you?
It's something that, it's been given to us. We have, because we live here, and other people don't have freedom, so it's something that not everyone has. So
Most of the rest of the world does not have the freedom that you kids have here. You can get in a car and drive to Washington, D.C. if you want to, your family, right? You can have any kind of food you want. Do you know there's places like in Vietnam, they have rice and something, a piece of meat or vegetables or something like that, almost every meal. They don't have Italian food. They don't have Mexican food. They don't have it. Okay? That's what they eat. Okay? What about the places who have one major religion in their whole country? You can have the religion you want. You can worship the way you want. You've got freedom. But I just want you to understand that it's you, young folks, that are going to be the people that keep the freedom going. So when people disrespect the flag, when they disrespect this country, what do you think they're saying?
Maybe they don't really care about freedom and all of that, so they just disrespect it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Maybe they don't care about what a lot of people did for the country.
Very good answer. Very good answer. Us soldiers, we have fought for this country. We have fought for you to have the freedom that you have. Do you know, I was in a country once where at your age, about the 5th or 6th grade, kids had to say what they were going to do for life. And if you said, I want to be an engineer, by the time you're in the 5th or 6th grade, that's what you get schooled at the rest of your life. You can't change. That's what you're going to be. So when those people come to America and they say, oh, my gosh, I can take whatever classes I want. I can be an engineer. Now, I don't like engineers. Maybe I'm going to be an accountant. They can change. In some countries, that can't happen. You have so much freedom. Don't ever let people take that away from you. When you elect officers in the government, you elect people that will maintain your freedom. Okay?
Yep.
All right, listen. You've been a great audience. Thanks. Give yourselves a hand. Okay?
My name is Bob Hughes, and I'm from Spanish Fork. I grew up in Spanish Fork, went to all the schools in Spanish Fork, graduated from Spanish Fork High School, went to college, and then I spent 3 years in the Marine Corps, right here. In the Marine Corps for 3 years. 1 year of those 3 I spent in Vietnam. And I still remember flying back from Vietnam, landing at Travis Air Force Base in California. And as the soldiers and the Marines and so forth and the Air Force people came off from that plane, two or three of them did this. When they got down on the ground, and went like this. What'd they do? They kissed the ground. Why do you think those big, tall Marines would, and so forth, would kiss the ground?
It's been a really long time since they've been there.
That's right. They're giving their respect and their love and their honor to their country because they knew that America was a free country. And so today I want to talk to you a little bit about the flag and the freedom and what the flag, stands for and represents. Let's go back in time, 246 years ago. That was 1775. And there were 56 brave, courageous men who signed a very, very important document. And this document, when they signed this, they were declaring their independence. And they knew that if they were caught by the British, what would happen? They would be hung. until death. In fact, Thomas Jefferson, he said this: "We pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." Now, what was the name of that document? Someone tell me.
The Declaration of Independence.
The Declaration of Independence, that's right. They were declaring their independence, their freedom from their mother country, England, because England wanted to take total control of them, so they were declaring their independence. Now, what do you think happened to those 56 men? Let me tell you, 5 of those men were caught by the British, were tortured, and died. 12 of them had their homes totally burned to the ground. 2 of them had sons who were killed in the war, and 9 also fought in the war, and they were wounded, and they later died also. I asked you this morning what you can do to show your respect to our country. What can you do? What can you do, or how can you show your respect to your country?
You pledge the allegiance.
There you go. We can give our pledge of allegiance to the flag. We can show respect and honor to the flag. So when you see the flag, I invite you to pay respect to the flag by doing what? Putting your hands over your heart, and those who have been in the military, they can go like this. They can salute if they wish to pay respect and honor to our flag here. Let me tell you a story that actually happened over in Vietnam. And Mike was an Air Force pilot. And while he was on a bombing mission over North Vietnam, his plane was shot down, and he was taken captive by the North Vietnamese army. He was put into a private cell with other prisoners. And as time went by, the North Vietnamese, they kind of gave in a little bit and let the prisoners come out once in a while out on a parade deck, to relax and to talk back and forth with each other and just kind of relax. Well, one day, Mike was out there, Mike Campbell, he was that pilot, he was there, and he looked over to the right and he saw something on the ground in the corner. He walked over here in the corner and he picked up this right here, an old piece of cloth that was caught in the gutter. And he took this piece of cloth, when no one's looking, he just kind of folded it up in his hand and took it with him back to the cell. Now, for the next few weeks, he took the time to clean this handkerchief or cloth as best he could, in his cell. He got some soap from his prisoners of war friends and himself, and he scrubbed this cloth down and made it as much as he could into a flag. He took some red tile that was part of the cell. He took some spit and wetted it down and made some stripes on it. He took a bamboo pole and he took a little kind of a sharp part of the bamboo pole as a needle, and he sewed little pieces of the stars on that piece of paper, on that cloth. So after a while, he came up with this. And one day he stepped forward, he looked through his cell, and he put this out like this. And, "Hey guys, look what I've got here." And all the prisoners, all of his friends looked out and saw this flag. What do you think they did? They stood at attention right in their cell. They saluted that piece of paper, that cloth right here, looked like a flag. You can see, if you're right there, you can see tears coming down the cheeks of some of those prisoners of war, because this flag right here meant a lot to them. It meant freedom to them, this flag right here. Well, on a given day, they'd go out on the parade deck and they'd be shaken down by the enemy. And shaken down means that they'd be fleeced or they'd be checked over to see if they had anything on them. Well, Mike made the mistake of having this little flag in his hands, and the enemy found this. So what do you think happened?
They shot him or hung him?
Not just about, not quite. What they did though, yes.
They tortured him?
There you go. That same afternoon, they dragged him from his cell down to a torture chamber and just about beat him to death. And they dragged him back that evening and pushed him back into his cell, left to die. But somehow he survived. Now, that's not the end of the story. What do you think happened? A couple weeks later, they're out on the parade deck, and believe it or not, he found another piece of cloth on the ground. He picked up that cloth, and what do you think he did? Yes.
Made another one?
He started to make another, another flag just like this, all because this flag here represents freedom to him and freedom to all those prisoners of war in that camp. And so I invite you that when you see the flag, going down the street, or when you're at a ball game and you see the flag being presented, take the time to do what? Stand at attention. If those who are in the military can do this, or you put your hand over your heart and you do this right here. You pay your respect and honor to the flag. Now, 10 weeks from today will be the 31st of May. You'll be out of school. But the 31st of May is a very, very, I shall use the word sacred or important holiday in our country. It's called Decoration Day or Memorial Day. And that's the day that America pays respect, and honor to our veterans and to all who have died. How many of you have ever been to the cemetery before around the 31st of May and seen those 2,000 little flags blowing in the breeze? Have you seen those before? Those 2,000 flags, they're on top of 2,000 little crosses, and those crosses represent about 2,000 veterans, men and women, who are buried in the cemetery. Now here's where I want you to use your imagination. Let's just play like for a moment that these 2,000 veterans were resurrected all at the same time. They just came up out of their graves and they formed a great, big, huge chorus, a big circle facing you, fifth graders. And this is what they would say to you. Honor the flag. When you honor the flag, you honor us and our country so you could be free. Let me say that again. Honor the flag. How do we honor the flag? There you go, standing at attention when it comes by. Honor the flag. When you honor the flag, you honor us and our country, so you could be free. I would say to you, young people, that you have the future ahead of you. Be respectful to the flag, honor it, and be a good example, because oftentimes nowadays when the flag goes by, what are kids doing? They're running around and teasing each other and so forth. You can be a great example to those around you, even to the older ones sometimes, your moms and dads. Stand at attention, put your hand over your heart here, and just look at that flag goodbye. Remember one thing, that flag stands for freedom. That flag, when you see that flag, you might think of Mike's flag. You might think of those 2,000 veterans who would come out of the grave at one time and say, honor the flag. When you honor the flag, you honor us and our country, which makes it possible for you to be free. Appreciate you, young people. I give my blessings upon you. God bless you folks, and God bless America. Thank you.
I'm actually going to talk to you about women in the military service. How many of you know any women who have served in the military? Do you want to tell me about her?
Yeah, so, my grandma, she was, in, the Air Force, I think, so, yeah.
Well, great. When do you think women started serving in the military? Have they always been in? Well, I'm going to tell you a few stories about some women who served before women were legally able to serve in the military. And that's been only 102 years. That's not very long. You know how long men have been serving in the military? From the beginning. So one of my heroes is a lady named Deborah Sampson. Deborah Sampson had brothers and a father and other men in her family who were fighting in the Revolutionary War. And you know what? She loved this country every bit as much as any one of those men. And she wanted to fight for our freedom, to be free from the tyranny that we were experiencing with England. So you know what she did? She made herself a man's uniform. And she put it on. And she joined a unit. She got away with it for quite a while. But then she got stabbed in the leg. And that wound started to fester. And she thought she could take care of it herself, but she got really sick with the infection and ended up going to a hospital. And when she was in the hospital, you know what happened? They found out she was a woman. So they kicked her out when she got better, because women weren't legally able to fight to defend our country at that time. But there were lots of other women who did the same thing. They loved our country, they wanted freedom, and they wanted to fight just like their brothers and their fathers to secure our freedom and their freedom. Deborah Sampson, since she got discovered and she was wounded, she is actually the first woman to ever get a pension from the military, even though she wasn't legally allowed to serve. But they realized that she had served and she was wounded. And so they paid her a pension after she got out. Another woman, and I don't have a picture of her because you know what, in the Revolutionary War, no cameras. But this woman, her name is Mary Walker. She served during the Civil War. She was a physician, she was a doctor, and she wasn't in the Union Army, but she traveled with the Union Army to take care of our wounded soldiers. Well, they were fighting around Richmond, Virginia, and she got captured along with a lot of other men who were fighting on the Union side. And she ended up in a POW camp, a prisoner of war camp, with the other Union soldiers. And while she was there, she took care of the Union soldiers and the Confederate soldiers who were guarding and taking care of the camp. And she suffered a lot of bad food and bad conditions just like the Union soldiers did. And when the war was over, because of her service, she was given the Medal of Honor, which is the highest honor that we give to people in the military. Even though she wasn't actually in the military, she had served so valiantly, taking care of our soldiers, that they decided to give her the Medal of Honor. They gave out a lot of medals of honor during the Civil War. And a few years after the war ended, some people thought, you know, that was too many. We kind of gave some to people who maybe didn't really deserve that medal because it's so prestigious. So they took back a bunch of them. Hers was one of them. So officially, it was withdrawn. But Mary Walker never gave back her medal. She wore it very proudly because she served very proudly. And someone said, you know, she really deserved that medal, and I think she should get it back. So President Carter, who was president mid-1970s, officially gave her back her medal, even though she was long dead. During World War I, which was a long time ago, in 1918, women were officially allowed to legally join the military. That's what these people are. These are women who enlisted and served during World War I. I was able to go to the dedication of a monument back in Arlington, Virginia. It's right outside of Arlington National Cemetery. They have a monument just for women in the military. And there was a woman who spoke to us in 1997 who was 102 years old. She had served in World War I. And when she was talking to us, she told us that when she enlisted in the Navy, she didn't have the right to vote. Every man who ever served during World War I knew if he wasn't old enough to vote yet, eventually he would be old enough and he would be able to vote. But the women who served during that time, they didn't know if they were ever going to get to vote in this country. So when I heard that lady talk about that, it just made me think about how much patriotism, how much love for their country, how much love of freedom those women had to have had to enlist and join a military that they couldn't even vote for the commander-in-chief or the president of that country. This lady also fought during the Civil War. Her name was Kathleen Williams. She had a brother and a cousin who had enlisted to fight to abolish slavery. And you might notice that she's an African-American woman. Well, during the Civil War, they had separate units of African-American men that were fighting to abolish slavery. And they had a nickname. They called them Buffalo Soldiers. Well, Kathleen Williams wanted to join to fight for her freedom because she was a slave. So she made herself a uniform, dressed up as a man, and joined. And she called herself William Cathay instead of Kathleen Williams. And she fought for 2 years before she got caught. And she is the only known female Buffalo Soldier. So I'm just kind of proud of her that she loved this country and wanted freedom so much that she was willing to break the law and dress as a man and join her brother and her cousin and fight for her freedom. I joined in 1974, so it was the very end of the Vietnam War. And when I joined, women were mostly nurses or some kind of clerk type position. I wasn't a nurse, so I was a clerk. And I was like the third woman to join the unit that I joined over in Provo. It was an Army Reserve unit. Before that, it was all men. I knew that the only way I could go to college was if I had some help from the Army, because my parents didn't have a lot of money, and that was how I could get some schooling. So during the time I was in, first I was a clerk typist. Boring. This typing and filing paperwork. But then I got to go to Fort Lee, Virginia, and learn how to refuel helicopters, because the unit that I was in was called a Petroleum Supply Company. So we would make this gas station in the field. It was just a big rubber container that we could put fuel in. So we could put JP4, which is an aviation grade fuel for jets and helicopters, or diesel fuel for the trucks and the tanks. So I got to learn how to do that. I got transferred to another unit, and I learned how to do human resource work. So I would help people get promoted or process their promotion packet or help them get transferred to a different unit. And then lastly, I got to be an assistant inspector general. So I got to help people get things that they should have been entitled to but didn't have yet, like some enlistment bonuses and things like that. But I also got to inspect units to make sure they were following the regulations. And then I also had to do investigations of people that were not following the regulations. So that was a very interesting experience. And as I spent my 27 years in the military, women got to do more and more and more things. And now, women can do whatever job they can physically do, as long as they mentally and physically can perform the job, then they can do whatever they want to do in the military. So things have changed a lot since these ladies and since I joined. One of the quotes that's on the memorial in Arlington, Virginia says, "Let the generations know that women in uniform have also served to provide their freedoms, and that our hearts were just as full at victory, and our tears fell just as hard and as fast at the passing of our fellow soldiers as the men that we served with." As in the other presentations, the gentlemen have said, be sure and thank the veterans, but be sure and thank those women veterans, because we're out there, we're few, not as many as the men, but we're out there, and we work just as hard and love our country just as much as our fellow soldiers or airmen or sailors or Marines. Well, I appreciate you being respectful and attentive, and I just thank you for being here.
My name's Mr. Tuckett, Dennis Tuckett. Now, before I became a teacher, I was raised here in Lake Shore, went to school here in Spanish Fork, and graduated from Spanish Fork High School. And then I went to BYU as a student, and just before I graduated from BYU, the government says we need more people in the military. So they set up a lottery, and they took everybody's birth dates, and then they went and chose out of that lottery certain birth dates. Well, mine was 121, which meant I was going to be drafted into the military. So I made the decision, instead of being drafted, I was going to join. So I went and talked to the recruiters for the Army, for the Navy, for the Air Force. But my wife and I just couldn't make a decision which way we wanted to go. So the final day came when we had to make that decision. We had to go over to Provo, and there was a federal building there. And you don't see these much anymore, but they had signs out in front, and they waved back and forth. One was for the Army, one was for the Navy, one for the Air Force. And my wife and I just couldn't make a decision, and we sat out there for a while, and all of a sudden a big windstorm came up. It knocked down the Air Force's sign. It knocked down the Army's sign. The only one left standing was the Navy. And we said, if they can stand a windstorm like that, we're going to join the Navy. And I went in the Navy as a swabby. This is the hat I wore. My first assignment was on Midway Island, out in the middle of nowhere. And I served there, and I was kind of in the aviation part of the Navy and keeping records for the aircraft and that, but there was only 4 aircraft on Midway Island. So they had me do everything. But while I was there, I had the opportunity of being interviewed to be an officer. And so I became an officer, and I changed my hat. And that's what I wear now as an officer's uniform in the Navy. They said I was going to be an intelligent officer. And I said, well, gee whiz. You see all these guys running around with these flight jackets on, and I kind of like them. Now these are made very to protect you from fire and things. So they're really heavy, and but you know, you just had to look the best you could. So I wanted to fly, and so I became a naval flight officer. Now, I wasn't a pilot, I was a navigator. And then I became what is called a tactical coordinator. And I was able to fly in this aircraft here. This is called a P-3 Orion. And it has, well, I had it in the classroom too long. The kids broke off the propellers. They broke off the tail of the plane. So I had to rescue it. But this is the type of plane that I flew in. When we were on a mission, there was 13 of us in this plane. 3 pilots, 2 pilots to fly, and 1 rested, and then they'd switch. There was some bunks back here for the pilots to sleep on, who were the one that was not flying at the time. And then we had a radar operator and a tactical coordinator and a navigator. This airplane had a special mission. I want you to look at this, because that's that airplane again. But what else is there in that picture? A boat? A submarine. That was our job, to track, follow, and if necessary, to drop torpedoes on submarines. So that was a very special part of this aircraft. We did other things, but that was one of the main parts that we had. So it was called anti-submarine warfare, is what we were doing. Now, in the back of that plane, there was special equipment that we used. Every one of you, if you ever have your finger printed, has a special fingerprint. Everybody's is different. None of them are alike. It's the same way with the machinery in this aircraft, because what we did is we dropped sonobuoys, which is a listening device, dropped it into the water. When it got the water, a microphone came out of the bottom of the apparatus that we dropped, and they listened to what was going on. Every submarine had its own signature. And so they'd print it out on these big equipment in the back. And when individuals that were specially trained to understand, they could find where the submarine was at that they had contact with. Let me give you an example. We were on deployment to Bermuda. I was out of Brunswick, Maine, which is up here, but this particular time we were stationed in Bermuda, and we went on a deployment for 6 months. And during those 6 months, something extraordinary happened. The submarines that we were trying to find were Russian submarines. And this particular time, a Russian submarine came right across the top above Bermuda. And then it came down here, and then it went back out into the ocean. And that was really a critical situation, because there had never been a Soviet submarine come that close to the United States. In one flight where we were on, we had a special guest with us from the United States government, because they were so concerned about how close that submarine was coming to our coast. Why do you think that would be a real problem?
Maybe they were trying to see what the land, like what it was like over there, to because maybe they were trying to look at it to see like how they were going to attack, maybe.
That's really good. We were worried because if they were carrying torpedoes or missiles, then they could attack the United States very easily. And so that was really a test. But we were able to follow that submarine all the way around Bermuda. We rarely would carry any armor, but we could take torpedoes or other devices to use if we were in a war situation. But fortunately, that never really happened. We never did get into a war at that particular time. I remember flying one flight when we went way down here in the Caribbean that lasted 19 hours. That's a long time to be in an airplane. But we had enough people that we could take turns and sleep and that, but it was a reconnaissance situation. Cuba was not really very friendly with us, so we wanted to keep track and see if there was other ships that were in the area that was working. So we did a lot of reconnaissance as well as chasing submarines. But all this took a lot of training. When I was a tactical coordinator, we had, you all would call it video games. But this was before video games came out. It was the actual thing. And I could see when we dropped sonobuoys, it'd bring up showing me exactly where that was dropped. And then we could drop some more, and we'd make patterns to see if we could hear where a submarine was at. But it took a lot of training to do that. And then next to me sat a navigator, and he would make sure that we were where we were supposed to be, and he'd keep record of everything that we did. But there was times when you couldn't get any electrical navigation aids. And so we were trained to do celestial navigation, which is a machine that we would stick it out of the top of the aircraft, and we could look at the stars and tell exactly where we were by navigating the stars. So that was called celestial navigation. And it worked. It really did. This is a flight suit. We always wore a flight suit, but this is for protection also, to help you have the protection you need in case there is an accident or in case there is a fire or something. Fortunately, it never happened. After I spent 7 years in the regular Navy, I spent 14 years in the reserves, and so we had a lot of opportunities then to continue in the training that we had. Just remember, the education is so critical and so important to do your best now and as you continue. Whether it's a trade or whether it's a college education, whatever, it's so important to do your very best. Do you have any questions?
What would happen if, like, your navigation went off and it was daytime and you couldn't look at the stars?
You can do it with the sun. It's a little more difficult, but you can navigate with the sun by using the same method. Okay? Yes?
What is the flight jacket made out of?
Leather. It looks like it's been used, doesn't it?
Yeah. Kind of looks like rubber right here.
Yes.
How long did it take? How many years did you have for training?
How many years did I have?
For training.
21 years. Yes.
Did you ever take off and land on an
Did I ever take off?
On an aircraft carrier.
Oh. The Navy's known for their ships, right? You don't call them boats. They don't like you to call them boats. I spent one night on an aircraft carrier. I set foot back on the ground and I said, gee, I'm glad I'm flying that aircraft, because it doesn't land on an aircraft carrier. Now, just one other thing to remember. When we'd go on deployment, like I mentioned, we'd be gone for 6 months. But every time we came back, you can hardly see it here, but there's a little hatch right here at the top. And every time that plane landed, they would open the hatch and they would put up the American flag. And that's when tears come to your eyes, when you know that you've done your job. You come back and you can see that plane land, and there's the flag. We're back on American soil. And it's just such a wonderful experience to know that there's individuals out there that are helping you be safe, helping all of us be safe. I certainly hope that you recognize those who are veterans, who have had that opportunity. Yes?
What would you guys usually eat on the plane?
What would we eat on the plane? We actually, in this plane here, had a galley. So we could cook, but usually we took box lunches because it was a lot easier than cooking. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your your being attentive to me, and appreciate the opportunity to express my feelings and what I was able to accomplish as a navigator and as a tactical coordinator in the Navy. Thank you.
Good morning. Great to be here with you. I'm Grant Paul Freeman. I was born and raised in Springville, went into the Air Force, and so I'm going to be here with you for a few minutes today talking about what I did in the Air Force. There will be a time when I'll ask if you have any questions. Please speak up. I've got hearing aids, both ears, so if I ask you to say it again, it's just because I've been around too many jet engines and I've lost my hearing, okay? Great to have you here. This is a great honor for all of us that have been in the military to come here and talk to you a little bit about what we did in the military and how special it is to serve your country. And it was an honor for me to serve in the Air Force. I enjoyed that. It was a great honor. My wife and I still live in Springville. We had 3 children. First one was born in Libya, North Africa. The other 2 were born in Louisiana when we were stationed there. This is my wife back here. Some people say, is she your co-pilot? I always tell them, no, she was not my co-pilot. She was my commander. And that's what you learn early, okay? I also want to emphasize the importance of you being here in school now. Education is huge. Any training that you get is huge. You're going to find out as you go through life, like those of us that are getting to be seniors or are seniors, education and training is very important in your career and in your life. So if you can get more education, get more education. If you can get more training, get more training. Very, very important, as I'll show you as I talk about my Air Force career. So graduated in Springville High School, went to Utah State, graduated in Utah State. Back then we had the draft system. When I graduated in Utah State, they said, hey, Grant Paul Freeman, you're going to get drafted. So I went through a series of tests and evaluations and went into the Air Force. Went to pilot training. Pilot training was 1 year, 52 weeks, solid training. We did academics, we did physical training, and we did flying. We started out in a little propeller airplane. We're in that for about a month. Then we went into a little 2-seat jet trainer. We did that for a little over 4 months. And then the last 6+ months, we were in this airplane right here called the T-38. It was a trainer. You can see has 2 cockpits. So you started out with an instructor pilot flying with you. You weren't alone. So you'd go up, learn how to fly, learn how to do different things, acrobatics, fly formation. Flying formation was very important in fighter kind of aircraft because you always flew with other airplanes. Normal cruising speed in these airplanes was about 300 miles an hour, maybe a little over 300 miles an hour. So when we were learning formation flying, we were learning how to fly with another airplane. How close do you think you wanted to be? How close do you think you wanted to be? What was the distance between wingtips? Yeah.
10 yards.
10 yards? Got to be a little closer than that.
5 yards.
5 yards? Got to be in closer.
5 feet.
5 feet? That's close.
3 feet.
3 feet. That's pretty close. 300 miles an hour, staying close here. So the lead airplane did navigation and radios. The wingmen just sat here and stayed in formation. Yeah.
Were you scared that you were going to hit the other plane?
Was I scared? A fighter pilot would say, nah, I would, yeah, it was, when you first start doing it, yeah, I mean, you'd just been flying, doing your own thing. Now you're right here 3 feet apart. Yeah, I mean, it gets your attention. So you really had to pay attention. I mean, at first you were out kind of doing like this, but then you got comfortable and you could stay in position. So it's just something that you learn. So this is a picture of me about 100 years ago when I was younger and in pilot training. This is the last airplane we flew. A great airplane. Could go supersonic. The Air Force demonstration team flew it for a few years, the Thunderbirds, and so it was a great airplane. A lot of fun to fly. After pilot training, we went to Louisiana. I was in a squadron there that we trained pilots that were leaving the United States to go to Vietnam. So we were training them to go to Vietnam. They came down with a requirement that they needed 3 extra pilots in addition to the ones we were training. So myself and 2 of my friends volunteered. We went to Vietnam. So we went to Vietnam, and this is the airplane that we were training them in, and this is the first airplane I went to Vietnam in. Okay? You can see carries bombs down here. Has a little minigun up front here, a little Gatling gun. Gatling guns in this aircraft had 6 barrels that rotated. 1 barrel fired at a time. How many rounds in 1 minute do you think you could fire in a Gatling gun? Yeah.
Maybe like 50?
50? Got to go up higher.
100?
100? 6,000. 6,000. So if I could do that in 60 seconds, if I just pulled it for 1 second, how many bullets went out? 1 second?
1,000?
Not quite.
Maybe about 100?
How about, hey, that's good. That's good. So that's a lot. So with this minigun, we would fire 6,000 rounds a minute or 100 in a second. They were about this size bullet. Okay? This was fairly effective, but not great. So the Air Force said, hey, we need a little bigger gun, some bigger airplanes. Okay? So I flew this in Vietnam. I flew 263 combat missions in this airplane. Saw tracers going by, saw airbursts. I fortunately never got hit. I had 2 wingmen that got hit, brought them back, landed them fine. 3 guys got shot down. We never got them back. So lost 3 good friends flying this airplane, shot down and killed in Vietnam. So came back from Vietnam, went to a new airplane, went to the A-7. This was really a Navy airplane. The Air Force bought some of them, and very enjoyable airplane. And you can see carried more bombs. Also had a Gatling gun right down here on the front, and also you could air refuel. So if you were getting low on gas, There was a tanker up there that was like a service station. You pull up behind, had a boom come down, plug in there, give you more fuel, you could fly longer. So, bigger gun. So we had a bigger gun. So we went to something this size. Okay, same thing, Gatling gun, 6 barrels that rotated, could fire the same rate, 6,000 rounds a minute, 6,000 of these in a minute. So that's a lot. So these, obviously more effective against like tanks, trucks, those kind of things. Bigger bullet, more effective. Okay, I went back to Vietnam again for a second time, was only there 6 months. Flew about 2 months in combat, flew 20 missions with this, most of them in Cambodia, but a great airplane, really enjoyed it. Okay, maybe you can see up here, only one cockpit in this airplane. 2 in this one, 2 in this one, 1 in this one. So when you flew this, no instructor. When you went and flew this, you were on your own. So you had to know what you were doing. You did a lot of simulator training. When you went up in this, you were all alone. Very enjoyable airplane to fly. I enjoyed flying the A-7. In Vietnam, we decided, hey, we still need a bigger gun. We need one that's got more firepower. We need one that's bigger than this. I mean, this is big. I mean, when you think this is what most of us hunt deer and elk with around here, this is a rifle shell. This is big. But no, we decided we needed a bigger gun. So we came back and they decided they needed a bigger airplane and a bigger gun, the A-10. Great airplane. Carried bombs down here, air refuel. Again, had a Gatling gun right on the nose of the airplane. Actually, the airplane was built around the Gatling gun. They came up with this new gun. Each barrel, this gun had 7 barrels instead of 6. Each barrel was about 8 feet long. Each single barrel, 8 feet long. So a big gun. So how big was the shell? Big shell. Big shell. So this was capable of penetrating armor, could go through tanks. Great gun, great airplane. Could this shoot 6,000 rounds a minute? No, slowed down. It could only shoot 4,200. So each time you squeeze the trigger, 1 second, 70 bullets. Very effective, very effective, okay? So great airplane. Did a great job in Vietnam. Was very enjoyable to fly. When I flew these airplanes in combat, we flew what we call close air support. We weren't up at 30,000 feet or 40,000 feet and dropping bombs and turning around and coming back. We were in support of our great troops on the ground. The Army troops, the Marine troops, we were supporting them. So when I flew this airplane, I would take off from the airport, go out to a target area, then I'd let down to about 6,000 feet was standard. 6,000 feet, circle the target area. Then the people on the ground would talk to them on the radio and they'd say, hey, we have some enemy troops over here. We're over here. We need you to drop your bombs over here. So that's what we'd do. We'd bomb over here and would help and would protect our Army and Marines over here. And so we flew oftentimes, depending on what kind of ordnance we carried, treetop level. Would get right down on the treetops. We weren't up at high altitude. We were down providing close air support. And the closer we could get, the more effective our support was. Okay, so we were down close. And it was gratifying to be able to go out and help our people on the ground. It was very gratifying. Let's talk a little bit about education and training. High school, college, Air Force training, trained in an aircraft, could have come back and flown with the airlines. Okay, the training that you get is important. You can't just be staying home, playing video games, doing whatever. You know, you have to decide what goals you have and pursue those goals and be successful in life. So Always looking for education training. I mean, do you have to go to college and get a master's and a PhD? That's great. Do you need that for some professions? No. I mean, you can take up other professions where you just get a lot of very good training. Plumbers, electricians, firemen, policemen, some college and there, but the training and the education is important. So keep working on the education and the training. Okay, anybody have any questions?
How many years did you serve?
How many years did I serve? I served a total of 36 years. Active duty, then I came back and flew with the Air National Guard out of Salt Lake, and then they assigned me to the reserve. Yes?
How many people hold in the A-10?
In the A-10? Okay. How many do you think? Looks like one cockpit right here, looking out these windows. Same thing. When you went up in this, you were all alone, so you better know what you were doing. You better have been doing well in the simulator, know how to fly it. Yes?
What was your favorite one to fly?
What was my favorite one to fly? This one. It's not the prettiest. You know what its nickname is?
What?
Its nickname is because it gets down, does the dirty work. It's not pretty. They call it the warthog. Not pretty. Yeah.
When in your first flight, was it scary?
I guess part of it was being scared. I think you were apprehensive, you were nervous, you were alert. But I mean, if you went up thinking, oh geez, I'm in trouble, what am I going to do? Then you were really in trouble. So by flying the simulator and in the two-seat airplanes, flying with an instructor pilot, yeah, you got used to it and you were ready and you were prepared. There were some days when you might scare yourself, like when you're out driving on the snow and the ice out here and you slide and it scares you, but yeah, you were comfortable and you knew what you were supposed to do. Yes?
Did you ever get like serious injuries?
Did I ever get serious injuries? Thank goodness no. Didn't have any crashes, didn't have to bail out. People ask me if I ever skydive. I tell them I've never skydived because my training said you never jump out of a perfectly good airplane. So I don't do that kind of thing, okay? Yes?
Have people tried to shoot you?
Did I have people try to shoot me? In Vietnam, I did. I saw tracers coming up over the airplane. I saw airbursts going off. And so it was war. And I mean, we were trying to get rid of them. They were trying to get rid of me. So yeah, that's the way it worked. Yes?
Are any of those planes that you flew, are any of them hard to fly?
Are any of the airplanes hard to fly? Well, since I can fly them, I mean, if I was a real fighter pilot, I'd say, yeah, they're all hard. You got to be really sharp to be able. No, you get enough training, they teach you well enough that when you fly them, you're comfortable and you know what you're doing. Okay? Great group. Appreciate the questions. You're really sharp. Thanks again for letting me come, for letting us come. It's a privilege for me to serve my country in the Air Force. Greatest country around. Please, if you have a member of your family that's a veteran, you know, don't hesitate to thank them. I mean, when my family thanks me, when a stranger thanks me, it means a lot. It means a lot. So if you see these people in the American Legion, thank them. I mean, they've gone to a lot of work and they do this. I mean, they do this every year if we can. And they do the great things at the cemetery, the decorations, the service for those that are being buried. So they do a great job and it's all volunteer. And it means a lot to them to have you come up and say, hey, thanks, appreciate it, and thanks for serving. Okay, great, thanks, great to have you here.
Present arms.
Dear family members, friends, faculty of the Nebo School District, and students. Members of the American Legion and the United States military deem it a privilege to render military honors for a friend and brother in arms. This veteran's life was blessed with happiness and joy because he and men and women like him have served honorably and without hesitation to preserve the rights, freedoms, and liberties that we enjoy in this great land of America. Before us is the flag of the United States of America. It is under this flag that we all served. This flag is recognized by friend and foe alike as a symbol of freedom as it proudly flies over our republic, the land of the free and the home of the brave. In a few moments, these proud veterans will lovingly and meticulously fold this flag and present it to the family. Following the presentation, the rifle squad will fire 3 volleys. The 3 volleys come from an old battlefield custom. The 2 warring sides would cease hostilities to clear their dead from the battlefield, and the firing of the 3 volleys meant that the dead had been properly cared for, and the side was ready to resume battle. This veteran has been properly cared for, and his mortal battles are over. At the conclusion of the firing of the 3 volleys, our post bugler will sound taps. Taps is a living soldier's final farewell and tribute to a comrade in arms. We would ask that while taps is being played, that you place your hand over your heart in respect for this veteran. If you are a military veteran, it is proper to render a hand salute. And so for now, good friend to all who knew you, until we meet again, may God bless and keep you, your family, and these United States of America.
Use the mic. Richard, hold on for him to use the mic.
On behalf of the United States government and through the American Legion, it is my pleasure to present to you this beautiful American flag. Would you please accept it on behalf of a grateful nation?
Order! Arms! Rifle tail, prepare to fire. Port, arms. Ready. Aim. Fire 1. Fire 2. Fire 3. Port, arms. Bugler. Present. Arms.
Everyone, please place your hand over your heart. Family and friends, this concludes our military rites today for our friend and comrade in arms, every service member. On behalf of the American Legion and the 30 members of our honor guard here today, we'd like to thank the family for allowing us to honor this service member in this way. His name will now be placed on our Veterans Wall of Honor at the entrance to the cemetery. And each year, on Memorial Day, a white cross bearing his name will be displayed in our Flanders field. Thank you again, and may God bless you all.
Rifle detail. And hook. Forward, turn. Left, peace. Turn right, march.
Boys and girls, we've now come to the conclusion of our Freedom Walk presentation to you today, and we hope that you can gain a sense of patriotism through this and a sense of appreciation through this for those who have willingly sacrificed so much to defend our country's freedom. And if you know of a veteran, tell that veteran, thank you for your service. Give them a hug, hold their hand, thank them. Because the only thanks that we get now is the smile and the thank you that comes from the lips of students like you boys and girls. We appreciate the opportunity to be here in the school. We hope that you have a great day, and all we have to say now is God bless America, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you all.